After all this, you still...
I still want that gas, yes. And you had better deliver.
Oh my god, technology is not my friend today.
That's okay. It happens. I hate technology, honestly. I just want to like bang rocks together. All I want to do is bang
If I
rocks
can't
together.
put it on a rock slate, I don't want to read it.
Exactly. Yeah. The way I want to write books is just chiseling the words into a stone tablet.
Like Sumerian tablets. Oh my god.
Exactly. That's how I want to tell stories. I actually really love like archaeology because like those stone tablets and the development of language is really just like people like keeping records of things and like talking shit about each other, and I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, that if you've seen that post of one that was translated and it was like the first Karen complaints of like they didn't send the right amount of grain this month. I need to speak to their supervisor. It's one of the most ancient forms of communication at this point. God damn it.
Yeah, and oh my gosh. Okay, so I have to find this Guardian article because there was a text that was found, and it was a poem, and from like ancient Greece, and it's I believe it's a syllabic poem, and so for like the longest time, like people had placed a date on syllabic poetry. I don't know what the date is. That's why I was trying to find the article because I'm a fucking friggin' idiot, like not knowing anything. But essentially, like there was a period of time that syllabic poetry had was said to have started in, and impressions of Greek poetry had always been like Homer, the Odyssey, the Iliad, and this poem specifically not only changes the date of when syllabic poetry was kind of quote unquote invented, but it also changes our ideas of Greek poetry, their practice of poetry. And anyway, but the poem itself, the contents of it is, God, I need to find the article because if I don't, I'll cry. It's Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I'm going to waste your time.
No, you're fine. I had a whole joke in mind for speaking of an idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about. Welcome to Greenhouse Gaslighting, the show hosted by one. But
nice. That's a good one. The poem. Hold on, wait, real quick. The poem says, "They say what they like. Let them say it. I don't care. Go on. Love me. It does you good."
that's the first like emo guy writing Facebook poems.
Yes, I fucking love it. I'm like kind of a flat circle. Like,
Oh my god, we did not evolve at all. We did not evolve at all.
Yeah, we've never changed. We've been the same fucking thing forever. I'm like, this is incredible. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, by the way.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. So welcome back to the Greenhouse, dear listeners. If you've been listening to our, I guess this isn't really a cold open; it's more of a lukewarm open. I'm joined by the host of Epoch of Incredulity. Please welcome Comrade Binx.
Oh yes, hello. I also want to say that I'm not a host. I'm just kind of like I just float and I just pop in and out on episodes. I don't want that much credit. But
Recurring contributor.
Yes, exactly. But thank you. Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been great to, get to follow you on Twitter, I think post DSA convention. Mainly because you have good tweets. I want to give you credit for that. Very few people seem to be able to do that these days.
Thank you.
And I think what's been interesting and why you reached out to come on today was the discourse that gets created on Twitter among the terminally online left. We all dance through it, and we also, or at least a lot of us, are like, wow, this sucks. And I figured you'd be the perfect person to talk to about some of this, because there was a big hullabaloo that I missed about the Met Gala stuff, and I know I referred to some of it on the last episode, and I said I wouldn't bring it up, but here I am again. Whether it was the Peg the Patriarchy T-shirt or AOC's, Tax the Rich dress, that was one of those storms. Now, the most recent one that I am in time for is Grimes in the Star Wars outfit reading the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, and honestly, the best take that was ever tweeted about the dress and the Met Gala was I can't remember who it was, but it was a DSA member, and they said something along the lines of like critiquing the dress itself is performative, critiquing the dress is performative, everything is a performance. Welcome to clown school.
Right, and I think
and after that I was like, yes, everything is a performance, like fuck it. And I just had fun. I am having fun,
Yeah. I think to a certain extent we all have to be Joker pilled and try to enjoy it. But I think what that speaks to, I think, is that we are in an age of spectacle when it comes to politics, especially with how excessively we can tend to get into posting about politics on the internet and social media, whether it's scores and scores of different op-ed columnists and horrible takes, whether it's guys like me who make a 2-bit podcast to act like we're above it but actually partake in it. It's a big cyclone of content that can be generated as a result of this big spectacle. And I guess let's start to maybe unpack it a little bit. Why do these things start? And more importantly, like, what is it about these that tends to obscure the underlying issues?
Yeah, I mean, after like watching honestly how DSA tweets, because like how during the convention there was just like so much like happening on Twitter, and you had to be like following the right people to know what was going on, to have context for the whole thing. And like that game in and of itself was really interesting to follow. And so I think leftist Twitter is very much like that, and I just kind of treat it like a sandbox. All the little, we're all just playing in a little sandbox like babies. And like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like, it's obviously not productive in like I guess a grander sense, right? Like, why be tweeting when you could be out organizing? Like, okay, yeah, valid, sure, but like, I mean, why not also tweet? So like, who gives a shit? I don't know. I'm sorry, I lost track of my thought, but yeah.
No, it's fine. It's a long thought to hold on to, and it's not rewarding to chase it to the end, but yeah. It's worth consideration, right? And I think something good about what you brought up about, that sandbox of the online left, or how DSA Twitter tends to play out. It's a lot of arguing over who's the left. It's me. It's not them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of frustrating to watch because I'm kind of the mind that we're in more of a pre-left moment, and you have, a contingent of annoying people on the internet who call themselves post-left. We can get into that later. And also talking about the internet, I'm gonna provide this first point as a caveat, is that, Twitter users are a marginal fraction of the entire population of the United States, most of whom doesn't vote. So let's tamp it off there, right? It doesn't even engage the system more often than not, or has like an overarching anti-authority take, but doesn't have any concrete praxis that they model after it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then we're kind of coming off of, I mean, what, 80 years of actions taken against organized labor, the American left retreating from the labor movement to the academy, which in turn kind of got co-opted by the mainstream Democratic Party, and is broadly a kind of rump movement that is kind of reinvigorated by Bernie Sanders, God bless, but is still in a good position to grow, but it's nowhere near the level of spectacle that's created around it. At least that's my read of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 'cause that's okay. So that was kind of a point of contention here in Boston because we obviously organize a lot with socialist alternative members of socialist alternative, and they drafted that amendment it was amendment to one of the resolutions. It was the labor resolution, labor organizing, and the amendment that they had came up with was, something having to do with like the politics of the people within unions that they were organizing. And it was a really contentious subject because on the one hand, it's like, yeah, we want to make sure that like, the I guess the people in a union that, DSA is like helping organize or whatever, we would hope that they would be leftist in their own politics as individuals, but unfortunately, statistically speaking, that is not the case at all. It's like more often than not, the people that are being organized into a union or have a union, they're not, far left. They just want a raise, they want health insurance. Like they're not, leftists. They just want to be respected as workers. Right. So it's like, the amendment seemed more of like an optical, like it seemed like a barrier to organizing because it's like real people, real everyday people, it's like we maybe have, somewhat of a head on for, like, oh, well, I just want healthcare. It's like, okay, great. But maybe they're not on board with all the things that, are kind of lefty talking points. So it's like, you can't alienate people based on their, politics to some extent. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting topic here, and someone, I think two of the biggest comments were like, this seems to have been drafted by people who don't do any labor organizing because again, statistically speaking, you're going to run into people who are just not super lefty, and that's okay. We need to be organizing those people as well.
Right. And you were speaking about the DSA convention, of course, and I no, I think it was clear to us, but I don't think you specified that's what you're referring to. But
I was just joking because I'm like, I feel like my brain just like has not escaped the convention. I just actually live in the convention. Anyway, continue.
Oh no, it's funny because I've been talking about being burnt out, and the thing is like that period started during the convention. Actually, at that time, a lot of other stuff picked up in my life the same time as the convention started. So maybe I'm also still dealing with it. But I wanted to ask, actually, to what extent does that kind of highly online mindset play itself out in a forum like that? You know what I mean? And this was my first time going to the DSA convention in that, I joined DSA this year. I wasn't really sure what to make of all like these different feuding caucuses. There was a lot of historical beef that I was not privy to and frankly I'm not interested in looking at.
Same.
Right. I was just over here like, okay, can I get my chapter some funding, please? That's really all I care about. Right. Everything else is kind of performative, but even then, like, it turned into this kind of forum to relitigate Twitter beef. And one arena in which I saw this, and you can comment on any other place you might have seen this, was the internationalism votes. And it was like, it just
Yeah.
turned into
Oh,
like,
yeah.
do you think Venezuela is bad? Yes or no? And it's like, I'm sorry, what does DSA have to do with any of this? Most of us will
Right.
never get a seat on the international committee. And for that matter, like, what am I supposed to do? Piss my pants because like CNN said something bad happened there?
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
also like, or even then it's like, or because like what, someone on Twitter like said they knew the guy who went to the international committee and they did something bad. Like, it's internet drama that's being played out at a forum where like more people than not don't know or didn't know they were supposed to care about it until they got there. And then it turns into, well, if you're trying to do the right thing, you know what you have to do. And it's kind of like a big investment of energy no one should have to get into. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like it's a lot. And that I mean, like we're just perpetually, chronically online. And you know, it's I think there's a balance, right? I think that there is a balance between like keeping up with the online discourse. That's why I made a kind of have been like been making jokes about it, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what, like this is what people do, some people do, and like there's no point in like bickering over it and squabbling. Like you can defend the billionaires and the celebrities and the politicians. You can defend them, but is it really worth your time? You know, like idiots are going to be idiots. Just let them squabble in their sandbox and move on. You know, like does everyone need to have a comment on everything? And that's kind of been
Mm-hmm.
my big question, even to myself. Like sometimes I have to ask myself that question. Like, is this the moment to shut the fuck up? Yes. Okay, I'm going to do that. And I think more people need to ask themselves that question. You
Right,
know?
right. It's like
Yeah.
a, do I gain anything from putting this out there? And
Yeah.
the point I'll admit straight up is yes, I want the serotonin boost. Yes, I need the likes. I want the followers. So I'll do
Yes.
it, but I don't have any first of all, I'm joking, but there needs to be a certain level of honesty. You know what I mean? Where it's like we
Yeah.
all know this is at the end of the day like kind of a fool's errand to try and like change hearts and minds over the internet. Not to say that, some people haven't been effective communicators, but it's like all things in proportion.
See what I like you and I are having this moment. And you
Hmm.
know, like something that I appreciated was when you had tweeted very very sincerely, but also kind of cringe. Your very sincere, you know, kind of confession, I guess, of where you were at mentally. And
Right.
like, I was like, okay, that is sincere. Like, this is a human being who is just trying to like be honest and connect. And I was like, I see that. And I want to engage with that because
Hmm.
I think that's like another way of like building community as well. Is like being able to just like reach out to each other and being like, hey, like, yeah, the internet's a pretty dumb place, but let's talk about it. So, like, because, like, I don't know. I do believe that, I do believe in the fool's errand of changing hearts and minds on the internet.
Hmm.
But, like, obviously, I'm not, like, trying to change people's minds by arguing with people on there. I just make fucking jokes and people like jokes and they're like
Right.
we're gonna bond over the humor and it's like this is exactly what I feel like that's just what people need. It's just like a good joke. So anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that idea either, but
No, it's a
yeah,
good
like,
point. It was a good point. Um, and I think maybe the first thing we should maybe preface is that why do people rely on the internet so much these days, right? And I think it is just the fact we live much more alienated lives. People are working longer hours, coming away with less every day. It's harder to meet people and make friends. At least that's something I've been noticing on, especially with the pandemic.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
100%.
yeah, and it's like I had a job working in New Orleans for a bit, where I tried my best to make friends I could hang out with regularly, get to know people around the city, but I think that's where I realize, like, when people talk about that epidemic of loneliness in America, you don't know how real it is until you consider, like, yes, people just fall down a pachinko machine of life circumstances. It's random,
Yeah.
it's arbitrary, and you can just end up like not having meaningful direct personal connections in your life for whatever reason. And it's in those moments where, you know, people starved for validation, starved for attention, starved for connection, come on the internet because it's accessible and it's easy.
Yeah.
How could you blame them?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, okay, so like I know for damn sure that I crawl into the disgusting corner that is the internet because like I number one moved to a new city, Boston, you
Mm-hmm.
know, in the middle of a pandemic. My grad classes, my whole program is online, so it's like really difficult to like make friends, or at least it was, you know, at like, you know, last fall where everything was shut down, couldn't go out, couldn't meet people. So it's like, literally, how do I make friends?
Mm-hmm.
So I use Twitter, dude. Like I straight up like some of the people that I hang out with, you know, on a day-to-day basis or like weekly basis, whatever. Like they're people that I met on Twitter, and it's like I felt like I had to do that because it was like, how do I suss out like we have common interests? Okay, we're both like in the DSA Boston chapter. Cool. Okay, and then I suss out, you know, what do they think on a regular basis? You know, like are their thoughts too unhinged where I need to like stay 5 feet away from them at all times, or are they like kind of unhinged but like kind of funny, like relatable? Okay, I see you. We could be friends, and like that's just kind of how I suss things out on Twitter, and it was just like now I have human friends that I hang out with. So it's like I do think that it can be a place of connection sometimes in like a weird way. But I had to like make it that way because it's like I felt like no other option in the pandemic in a city, online classes, like where else am I supposed to go? Um, and like DSA kind of, you know, obviously I think in some part played a role because I'm meeting all these organizers. We do
Mm-hmm.
things together. So I'm like, okay, now I have friends. But I also want to include that I was raised in a cult. And so,
No way.
yeah.
No, no,
Yeah.
it's funny because I was gonna say me too, but
Wait, really?
yeah, mine was a lot more of a low grade cult. In India, there's a lot of like gurus who people will like flock to and like kind of live around. So it was a lot more low stakes, but in terms of like the kind of social dynamics and expectations that get placed on you, I kind of get it. I get it.
Okay, so just a side note, we have to do an episode on this because I was raised in a cult that was essentially run by a Hindu guru who was from India, and I think you would know of him. And I think that that would be like a really interesting conversation.
Oh my. Okay, we have. We,
Maybe, but we could, yeah, we definitely have to talk about it.
yeah, let's get on this offline because there might be something to talk about here. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so anyway, so back to you know, Grimes reading the Communist Manifesto.
Which is only 32 pages.
I know, that's I literally have a copy that is like, yeah, like or it's 40 something, I think maybe the font, who gives a shit. Anyway, but like still it's a pamphlet that like isn't, you know, she's I don't know what edition she's reading, but it doesn't matter, right? I mean, like the point is just like okay, she's reading a book. Like I read books all the time, right? Like who is that going to change anything? No, not at all. You know, it's performative, and even if she is, you know, in her Instagram post sincerely considering the ideas of Marx, like also that Instagram post was so weird. Did you read her caption on that?
No, no, I just
Don't do it. It's a waste of time.
okay, I won't. But I kind of like the only reason Grimes shows up on my feed, or the only reason like I know about it, is just to like have a laugh at Elon Musk's expense. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, What were you saying?
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that well, she just said something ridiculous along the lines of like how she's like, I'm not really into capitalism, I'm not really into communism, though Marx has some good thoughts. I think that
Buddy.
there's something in like UBI and gaming, but I haven't really like formed a concrete thought yet. And I'm like, you mother, like, dude, like, it's like you just make music. And I know that sounds shitty because but like, girl, just make music. Like, it's fine. You don't have to like, just because you like, she married or no, didn't marry, but she was with Elon Musk. They had a child. It's like
The child still
you
doesn't
made
have a
your
name.
Yeah, it's like you made your proverbial bed, let people shit in it because like you like yeah, it's like oh, okay, you broke up with Elon Musk and now you have to read the Communist Manifesto to get back at him. Like that's like when my ex dumped me and like I gave myself a terrible haircut, you know? Like it doesn't do anyone any favors. So anyway, it's just stupid and all the comments about it are stupid and it's like again, that tweet lives in my head rent free of like, welcome to clown school because it doesn't matter.
And I think that's the biggest thing because there's something funny to be said about the crowd that's like, she's doing wonders for, marketing Marxism, which is like, that's the last thing he wanted. But
That's hysterical.
she was really, really focusing on 32 pages. Good for her. But
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, you could say that that's the same critique of like, the tax the rich dress where AOC was like, we just need people talking about this. And it's like, okay,
exactly.
motherfucker, like people have been talking about like this isn't new. This discourse is not new. Like you didn't like bring this to the table for the very first day. This is like literally like we've like the redistribution of wealth. This is an idea that was literally born when you wore the fucking dress. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like this people thinking that, oh, well, it spiked in Google searches. Like, God damn it. Or oh, it's marketing. Oh, it's getting the word out. It's like these ideas have existed forever, or not forever, but for a very long time. And it's like, you don't need PR to fucking like make people like read theory, or maybe you do. I don't know. I mean, if you've been a leftist for a while, I don't even think you need Karl Marx at some point because it's like at some point you need to realize that a lot of that shit's super old and like there are so many critiques of Marxism that I think and like Marxist ideas like that I think are valid and good to read. Like I think that engaging with more, I guess, contemporary thinkers like Angela Davis, for example, or, Noam Chomsky, or whatever. It's like,
Or Zizek.
yeah, exactly. Zizek, yeah. And it's like when you engage with more contemporary people, you can come up with solutions that are like good in your communities, It's like, I think that's what it really what I think the thing that like people really need to realize is like theory is important. I will say like political education is important. But what's also, I think, more important is being able to take those ideas and kind of filter through them and generate new ideas for your community and for the world around you presently, if that makes sense,
Oh, it makes a ton of sense. And I think you summed up, the case for why you should not only read Marx, but also read more Marx. Critiques of Marx and supplements your Marx with other readings and other info. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
eco-socialism is big for me, so I think like supplementing it with ecology is important. Now that aside, because that's a moot point for us. I think what got me about the moment with the dress, and I know I said I wasn't going to address it, so everyone knows my personal opinion on it. I don't need to bring it up because it's irrelevant. What I did want to bring up again was why it turns into a kind of defense of preferences and behaviors when something like the dress happens. You know what I mean? So AOC wears the tax the dress dress, and then it turns into, is this activism or is it not? Is this supporting the cause of socialism in America or is it not? And what gets lost in that discussion is that the last thing AOC did that was either like, in violation of the image she has, or was something that kind of stands against some of her campaign promises, or in, what we should be getting into is how does this behavior differ from what DSA expects its endorsed members to do when they hold the levers of power. That all gets lost in the mix, and then it just turns into like, the dress is good because I like AOC, or the dress is bad because I hate AOC.
Yeah.
Fully turning AOC not into even like a politician who should be routinely, critiqued and analyzed for failures, because that's what you should do with anyone who's accountable to you, right? Instead, it turns into a culture war, which is the basis of this politics of spectacle that we were talking about earlier. And the whole thing about the squad, the whole thing about AOC, and how she got lumped in, like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Presley. And like, at least you can argue that Tlaib and AOC can be put in the same bucket because they are quote unquote DSA members. That you can't with, or didn't Presley get a DSA endorsement in?
I don't think she did. I don't even think she's a member, to be honest. She doesn't, like, I don't, like, Boston DSA does not, like, do much with her at all.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm. And I know Ilhan Omar for sure is not, even though she has, well, lately she's kind of been bouncing away from her anti-imperialist critique of the United States. This was a media invention that just lumped all these younger, progressive women of color who stood outside the Beltway and gave them like a Yas Queen image that was easy to market. And it was easy to, co-opt very easily. And then it gets frustrating because it then turns into but isn't this a big win that they're at the table? And that's something I've struggled with a lot in my evolution from being like a, card-carrying Democrat to moving towards the socialist train, is that realizing just how little representation actually does when it comes to putting the brakes on the wheels of power. That's one of those realizations that I think people are too scared at times to admit.
Yeah.
I could also be talking out my ass. I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, it's like, how many times do we need to like bring the same thing to the table though? And so it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just like a crank because like it's making me cranky, like I can't, I don't know. I like watching like national politics kind of play out makes me feel like the Joker. But because I mean, so if we're moving forward in our discourse and our discussion, Jamal Bowman has been like kind of chronically voting against DSA's mission, specifically in reference to military spending, the Iron Dome, and also like voting on a bill that had to do with essentially giving more money to Israel and Israel's defense. And there's now a letter to expel him from DSA that's been going around. Have you seen that?
I have not. Could you shed some light on that?
Yeah, I definitely signed it because I was like, yeah, get him out. Because it's so hypocritical, and I can't express enough. Like, some people are like, oh, well, I don't know, whatever fucking centrist point you could possibly make, insert it there. I can't conceive of it right now, but the point I'm trying to make is like DSA is an organization that exists to kind of support these networks that we have of work, like the working groups as networks. We have like a national mutual aid network, and that connects like a lot of people. And then there's the BDS and Palestinian Solidarity Working Group, and it's like that in and of itself is a piece of DSA, and to vote directly, just going directly against the work that organizers do, like actual organizers do. Like, I don't know, to me it really pisses me off, because it's like that's just so disrespectful to an entire organization that you are literally a member of, and you go against the work that organization explicitly does and engages in, and there are actual individuals, actual people in that group doing that work, and I just find it like deeply disrespectful. I don't know if that's like a weird take, but that's just how I feel,
I think that's a correct take to have, because this, we started this off as a discourse for discourse's sake and why it's bad episode, but it's important to recognize that, it's not without consequence that these things happen. And when we had these like different rounds of debate over like, are we doing the right thing electing all these people? How are we going to hold people accountable? What should the approach of a DSA endorsed candidate be when they get into the office? These don't exist in a vacuum. They do have a real impact. Now, whether or not they turn into, dynamic, direct, and organized actions that can sustain themselves, that's another story, right? But when it comes down to how beaten down people are, and they have to rely on electoral politics as a kind of vent to put someone in to kick the gears forward, people they have faith that they will provide the backup for these members in Congress, and they will push these bills forward, or they'll unapologetically say stuff in the media, or they won't shy away from a fight. And the effects of institutional creep, whether or not that's the culprit, do seem to be showing themselves. Whether it's Bowman's, flat vote in favor of giving that funding, whether it was AOC's 7-page letter, is it now, or her Instagram story saying why she's sorry she did it. Feeling disrespected is absolutely the right feeling, because a lot of people put in those hours of work hoping that, someone above them could match the effort.
Yeah.
And that's what's creating the burnout in DSA right now.
Exactly. See, that's yes. So it's like yeah, when legally that your organization could be threatened by this person's vote, because in the bill, like I read the text of the bill because I was drafting like I guess a critique for a magazine that may or may not come out. I don't know. I haven't decided. My brain is fucking mashed potatoes. But the bill itself, like literally, like says that there would be like, I guess, penalties for countries that are I guess practicing or doing BDS, right? So it's like if the United States is trying to penalize other countries for doing it, then like our organization, you know what I mean? It's like what is going to happen to our organization? What is going to happen to the work that the BDS and Palestinian Solidarity Working Group, like what is going to happen to their work? And it's like, if you are a member of an organization and you claim to be a member, then you need to support the work that your organization does. And you need to stand by it 110% and not falter just because you're a fucking Democrat, really. Like, you know, you just, and I do believe that there needs to be accountability, because it's like, how else, yeah, like you're saying, it's like, how else are we going to move forward? How many more times do we need to be doing this? How many politicians are gonna ride on the hardworking backs of DSA members, because that's who goes out to canvass, that's who does the organizing. You know, it's like we do. And if they're not accountable to us when we get them elected, then fuck them. Like, we don't need them. So it's like, you know, so it's like, I do think that there needs to be a system. And, you know, whether or not that's expulsion, I mean, for a member specifically, I do think that like expulsion is like, I'm on, obviously I signed the letter, right? It's like, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. But, you know, if someone's not a member, and well, I mean, can they? No, there isn't a rule. You don't have to be a member to be endorsed, right? You don't have to.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the specifics are, but I believe that's the case. If someone's seeking the endorsement of the DSA, they need to meet a certain criteria.
Absolutely, and I think that's what our last convention was trying to do. It seemed like it did not go through, and so I think that's just a fight. I think this is something that we need to keep talking about. I know burnout is real, but I think that these conversations are really important, because we can't stop talking about this, and we have to have this conversation again at the convention. And in the years leading up to that convention, we need to be having these conversations with every single person we organize with, because it's like, if you think that we don't need hard lines on you know, accountability from these politicians, then you are deceiving the mission here. You know, you are averting your gaze away from the actual future of socialism, because if you gave a damn about it, you wouldn't be okay with politicians being capitalist dummies. Like, you would want some accountability, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And I think like the whole selling point of DSA, you know, for all its faults, and even I'm still trying to flesh out what I think about the world, right? But the idea is that we will vote it in. That's the hope of this. And to come back to back with events like this, it does erode the trust of DSA members. It does erode the trust of people who come in thinking like, hey, maybe there's a shot this can, you know, get better. And the thing to fight is not, we need to turn people engaged with the Democratic Party into people who are engaged with the DSA. It's, we need to make sure that people who start to buy into the process feel represented and feel heard. And right now, people feel absolutely unheard. They feel absolutely powerless. And it's hard not to look at this stuff and be like, okay, so I feel betrayed by what's going on here. I'm just going to tune out. And you can do all the mental gymnastics in the world. We can come up with our own DSA equivalent QAnon of like, no, trust me, AOC's fighting the deep state. She's got a plan. You just got to believe. You got to keep the faith, baby. But like, it's, if only it worked like that.
Imagine that happening. That would be, I think that'd be really funny, actually. Do you actually want to start that? Want to do it?
What, DSA QAnon?
Yeah.
I feel like someone has already gotten around to it at this point. There's like that weird intersection of like QAnon and like conservatives who thirst after AOC. Like, someone at that intersection has already done it well before we got the idea.
Well, we have to find them on the Twitter discourse now. We have to find them.
Yeah, I will scour the internet for them, and then if they aren't there, yes, I'll get fully into it. But
oh yeah, I mean, anyway, let's I want to hear what you have to say about the Green New Deal and DSA with that.
Green New Deal for public schools.
All of it.
I mean, so thankfully I've been kind of insulated from that heavy, pain of directly participating in canvassing and having my heart broken by looking at some of this stuff. I've kind of, one, by virtue of like where I live and like not having the time to go out and canvas because I literally live an hour away from where some of these places are, or not having the time to do some of that phone banking work. Like, I can't say the thing of like, I worked hard on this and I feel hurt. No, I'm not doing that, but I see it happen to people in my chapter, and it's hard not to feel for them in that there's no serious throat. Sorry. Oh my God. Serious throat. That's not what I meant to say. There's no full-throated action being taken by the Biden administration on climate. So pushing ourselves into Green New Deal as a priority, particularly Jamal Bowman's Green New Deal for Public Schools initiative, as something people can pour themselves into, that is a concrete plan with concrete demands and can start to ameliorate some of these problems we're going to start seeing. Only for him to be like, but I'm still gonna vote in favor of funding the Iron Dome, which, first of all, it's fucking hilarious that as soon as that happens, there's a fucking report from the Treasury saying we're running out of money soon. And also, Israel is doing pretty well financially right now. I'm sure they could have come up with the money themselves.
Oh yeah, like that's the thing that I just grinds my gears is like, to use a really fucking Family Guy. Anyway, but the thing that really upsets me truly is the fact that there seems to be in this whole narrative, it's like, yeah, Green New Deals for public schools, like as if, honestly, as if making every single public school in the United States like fucking green is going to make up for the fact that like the United States military is the biggest like cause of climate change in our country. Like the excess waste, the pollution, like just every part of it is absolutely destroying the environment. And like, sorry, but this initiative for public schools, like, what, that is literally a drop in the bucket for in comparison to how the military is destroying our planet. And it's like, if we actually divested from our military, if we actually stopped spending money on the military, just if we just stopped doing that, and like, yeah, that money could also be poured into other things, and we wouldn't have a global terrorist organization. Sorry, but yeah, that's what our military is. That is literally destroying the planet, like ecologically, and also just like when it comes to human rights and the development of other countries, etc. Like we are a parasite. Our military is a parasite, and if we keep funding it, like any attempt to be quote unquote green is a fucking farce, in my opinion.
Absolutely, I think all of our imperial infrastructure, whether it's how wasteful our supply chain is, whether it is our military, which, is probably the world's best supply chain when it comes to being able to set up a McDonald's anywhere we're doing an occupation. That's what the U.S. military is for. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But
I'm with you.
It's a world spanning system of capitalism now, where the United States is the consumer at the end of the conveyor belts. We don't really produce anything like we used to, and wages are going down, but the incentive being given to us, especially in the middle of a pandemic, is buy more, consume more, head out, go to your restaurant, and just, whatever. And there's no systemic call to action or call to arms. Sorry, I shouldn't say it like that, but
I like that.
Parody, satire, parody. I might edit that.
Sorry, it's a joke. It's a joke. Totally a joke. I'm kidding.
Parody in the game. But like, there's no full-throated critique of this society of convenience that's created for us. And the whole hope of having independent, crowd-funded candidates like AOC, like Bowman, and this was the whole push behind Bernie, was that because they're not trying to have that long career in politics, because they aren't accountable to their donors, we can get someone to say something outlandish every now and then. We can get someone to say something that no one was willing to say every now and then. And it's kind of turning into the age-old thing that more progressive style Democrats do, of like, well, there's a limit to how much you can get away with. That's fundamentally what they're getting at. Is like, you don't want to say too much. You don't want to alienate too many people. But this isn't necessarily about alienating people so much as it is about taking a moral stand. And that's something that is kind of vague in this discourse for discourse's sake, and the people who agree, who engage in it, is that pragmatism is inserted into the discussion whenever it needs to happen. It's never, because first of all, why would anyone really discuss tactics online unless, you're an op? It's to, to wield authority over someone in a discussion that's meaningless. That's one way of looking at it, right? But it's also that I feel like people are trying to put themselves ahead of the question. They're so afraid of like this. You see this with Democrats a lot, is that they're so afraid of the ghost of Reagan that they'll immediately compromise before they even get to the table. They'll immediately pivot to the center, and I'm starting to fear that for the quote unquote socialists that get in now, is that they're immediately pivoting to Democratic Party leadership before they even make their big pitch. So it's frustrating to watch, and it's frustrating to see people. I'm really sorry how long it took me to make the point, but it's frustrating to see people do mental gymnastics to justify it, when I think we can correctly say, "Holy fuck, we were expecting more of you."
Yeah, and can I just bring everything full circle here?
Please do, please do.
When a campaign like Green New Deal for Schools puts kind of the onus on schools and communities and individuals, I think, and instead of putting the pressure and accountability on the electeds and saying, hey, we literally put you in office, you need to be fucking doing what we told you to do, instead of, we're now putting the onus on individuals. And in the same way, I think, there were a lot of, in the black hole of discourse on Twitter, a lot of people, were defending AOC and defending Grimes even, and and when they do, they put the onus on individuals as well. It's like there are critiques that are like, well, okay, say what you want about AOC, but are you organizing? Putting the onus on individuals. And it's like, if we are not allowed to critique and hold, our electeds accountable, then what the fuck are we doing? We should be able, individual responsibility is a lie. And what we really need to be doing is throwing stones, metaphorically speaking, at our electeds. Metaphorically speaking, of course, in game. But actually holding people accountable and being able to critique people and being able to take shits online when it's everything is a goddamn joke. And I think that that the rhetoric that can be used to weaponize organizing against people, I think, is bullshit rhetoric, and we need to not play into it and be like, oh well, the whole defending politicians thing, it's centrist bullshit. It's like, nope, we should be able to say this. We should be able to write articles about how these people are being big dummies, and we should be able to hold them accountable to our cause if we elect them, or if we not only elect them but also get them there. And yeah, we should be able to yeah, do all these things because individual responsibility is it's a line. Anyway, that's my last take.
I think that's solid. I think that's very solid, and it's interesting to see how we started this. And I'm wondering if maybe our topic was too ambitious, and I'd wonder, if you'd be open to come on and maybe discuss this again. But I think it's good to bring up the concept of how politics gets discussed online, even if it's not reflective of the broad population, because it's interesting to see, like, how is it one of those things that people invest so much psychic energy into, they invest so much meaning into it, especially when the kind of discussions or views expressed don't seem to mirror what's going on in actuality, or even worse, are something that's happening so distantly from us. Like whatever happens in DC, like, is so far away, abstracted from us, and it gets further abstracted when you put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
That it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you're fighting in the Matrix. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, so just let the clown show happen and keep I don't know. I don't think that like actually critiquing politicians is like a clown show, right? Like obviously I have a lot of takes about Jamal Bowman. I think maybe it's like how we place them in the world, how we place these thoughts into the world. Um so like I want to be able to make genuine, honest critiques, but like while also being able to dunk and joke. I don't know where I'm going with this idea, but anyway, yeah, maybe our whole concept was really ambitious, but I think we covered, pretty much what everything we needed to cover. Yeah,
Right, right. And I think, like, it's not a bad point you brought up there. I think it's what it ultimately comes down to is that, what Twitter is about. It's about having fun with friends. Okay? When it
yeah,
comes to talking politics, it's not a dialectical space. Now, of
yeah,
course, the struggle is that we don't have very many dialectical spaces. We don't have forums. A lot of people don't even do town halls anymore. It's the actual means of engaging in a community are missing across this country in more arenas than just politics. Also, when it comes to the simple matter of making friends, that's something people are struggling with a lot too. So it goes, you know, back to your idea of, like, it's how you put the idea out in the world. And I think, us having a dialogue, even though it was for the sake of a podcast, it's still closer to being a dialectical space than a stupid like, 1,000 tweet thread would be.
yeah, yeah. Um, I will send you the letter because I did find it. Actually, it came up in the Slack in my chapter Slack. That's where I saw the Jamal Bowman letter, and I had like put it, or someone else had put it on Twitter, and so I was glad that it was on there. So I think that again, that's what I'm saying, like the difference in like putting your ideas out there, right? It's like people do use Twitter to share they're very serious letters, like these very, serious topics and issues. And I think it's just, yeah, like you're saying, like it's like how we play in the sandbox with each other. Because DSA is a small organization, and the only forum we really have is like the national convention. And even then, that world gets so much smaller because it's like our chapters are small and comparatively, I don't know, relatively. And if you think about the percent of people maybe in an area who's actually like in DSA and who's not, it's like we are a tiny, tiny, tiny universe, and the convention makes that universe way smaller. And I think Twitter, probably makes that pretty small as well. So we have to remember that we are a small community, and we also have to like keep that in mind and like not be assholes to each other, you know?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we don't choose the word comrade lightly.
Yeah.
It comes out of solidarity, and that's something that you have to feel, not just as someone who calls themselves a leftist, but if you're trying to get into that kind of organizing work, actual human connection is what powers that. It's not just a skill you can put on your resume. And something that you also brought up was the emphasis on self-care, because a lot of people are channeling their pain into this process much
Yeah,
more
yeah.
than their material interest or their you know the actual reasons that they do the things they do. And I think that for our line of work, quote unquote, it has to come from a place of shared humanity and a place of love. As hokey as that sounds, it has
Yeah.
to come from a place of understanding human connection as the thing that prevents us from being violent to one another. And that's why it's important to have a world where when you have people's material needs met, they're less likely to channel their resentment, their frustration, and their pains onto people in the ways that they have so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, we're all organizing for different reasons, and like everyone comes to the table with a completely different background, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously we're at the table because we're all facing an existential crisis, and all of our crises are different. Maybe there are some overlaps, but and I think that a lot of people do bring that energy into their organizing, and that's cool because like yeah, we're literally fighting capitalism. We're literally going up against so much institutional bullshit all the time, every day, and I think it's like important. I think it really is important to take care of yourself because it's like if you're not doing things that make you feel good, then like you need to not be in an organizing space because like you could potentially be an asshole to someone. And it's like you gotta take care of yourself so you're not an asshole, you know? At least that's what I think. That's how I try to go about my life is like how do I just not be a dick to people, whether online or in person. And and usually that means I wake up early in the morning and I go for a run and I make myself breakfast and I sit with my thoughts and then I go about my day. And that's about it.
Yeah, I think it's just the creation of a simple ritual for yourself, whether it is eating breakfast, whether it is going for a run, or whether it is like people go about it differently, try to go about it as healthfully as you can, right? But that degree of being able to say, I'm going to take this time back for myself, is a
Yeah.
slow but important step in kind of reclaiming your alienated time back for yourself. Because, especially like with how extractive labor has gotten lately, with how extractive the expectations that employers have of American workers has gotten, it's kind of just turns into like, am I? People are always second guessing themselves. Like, am I an asshole if I take the time off? Am I, do I always need to be rushing like this? And whatever host of daily considerations people make in favor of their job instead of for themselves, or in consideration of their organizing goals or their whatever aspects of their lives, because we channel our association with work from our capitalist culture, right? We project that then onto the things that we bestow meaning with, and it creates that kind of society of burnout, if as so you speak, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, it's one of those things of like taking things back for yourself, or taking things then as like a step above, taking things back for you and the people you love, or the people who you have meaningful connections with.
Yeah. And
then taking it back for the community, that's like the highest form of it. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's what I'm struggling with because I'm just trying to take back for myself. I'm like, I just need to get myself to not just get through the day and have like a good day. And sometimes that could be hard. But yeah, it's like we're not built in isolation, so we shouldn't isolate ourselves, but we also, yeah, it's like you internalize capitalism, you internalize that, and you think, oh gosh, I need to be doing 100 things today. And sometimes you can give yourself permission to be like, you know what? I got this done today. I did this thing. I'm just gonna like take a break and chill and maybe not look at the discourse and maybe just enjoy my own thoughts and the grass outside and an animal. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, like do you think it's like important to like involved and active and stuff, but I also think rest and rejuvenation are also really important. So
Yes, and I'm glad you specified rest and rejuvenation because a lot of times too, self care is, it's been co opted as like another reason to go consume something.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And these are the actual things that like do not require you to be a consumer. These are the actual things where it's like I need to reclaim something to put back into myself as opposed to take something from someone or to just consume something. Like self-care is not just, DoorDash. Like that's a literal DoorDash ad I've gotten. It's like do some self-care, order a $50 burger and then like $20 for the delivery fee. That's not what what we were talking about here. This is like the real recognition of your own humanity, that you need rest, that you deserve to live in a warm environment, that you
Yeah.
deserve to think positively of yourself. That's really what we're getting at here.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, a lot of people get burnt out because they're also dealing with their own personal shit and they don't know
Absolutely.
how and they're like juggling 20 things and it's like just like just be a normal person and stare at a wall for 20 minutes. You'll be fine. So, I don't know. Be
go
alone with your thoughts. I need to be alone with mine.
go touch grass, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. Give yourself a break, even if you're not touching grass, like, because that's the thing is a lot of people think like, I don't know, like, obviously being terminally online is not organizing, but either way, whether you're terminally online or you're out in the world, um, doing 20 things and working on projects and stuff, or both. Like that's me. I straddle both. I need to sometimes like not do anything and touch grass. So
Yeah, we've heard of calls of action. This is a call to rest.
yeah, this is if you are listening and you feel like you need to rest, this is your permission to do so.
This is also your reminder to take any cups in your room back to the kitchen.
Ah, yes. Yeah, it's a good one.
All right. I Anything else you might want to bring up before we start wrapping up?
No, that's it. That's it.
Okay, where can people find you, or is there anything you want to plug?
Well, you did gas up my Twitter earlier, so my Twitter is Viva La Binx, Binx, and yeah, that's where you can see the magic happen, all of the unhinged like bullshit that I think of on a daily basis.
It's mostly hinged. It's mostly hinged.
Think so. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. We'll end the episode, but I do have questions. Anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'll also make sure to include the open letter to Jamal Bowman in case anyone wants to sign that. This show
Please
is
do.
this show is Greenhouse Gaslighting. You can follow us on Twitter at @podgreenhouse. You can follow me, Adi, at Fibonacci Sniper. Uh, or look us up on any other social media app. The links are in the description. You've heard my spiel before. Until next time, see you all in the greenhouse. Take care.